one of the things that I was really excited to talk to you about was this, present centered awareness that you talk about. I know that in terms of confidence building and how it is that we relate
Mhm.
to ourselves as people in this current space, we have our past that definitely influences the way that we think about ourselves and others, how it is that we go about our days in terms of what we find to be priorities, what it is that we put on the back burner. And then also that we spend a lot of time thinking about the future, right? What is it that
Yeah.
you're striving towards? What are the dreams that you want? What are the goals that you're trying to hit? What are those things that you deeply, deeply desire, but don't believe that you can achieve, or that somehow you won't be able to get to them based on the community you're in, the society we live in, the world at large, all these things, right? It gets very easy to get stuck in our past narratives and get caught up in the future that we're attempting to build, with that sense of uncertainty that can sometimes keep us stuck. But you bring it back to this present centered awareness, and I would love for you to explain
Mhm.
what is present centered awareness.
Yeah, happily. Present centered awareness or present centered focus is another way I describe it. It's about allowing yourself to be fully in the now, to be
Mhm,
fully present for this moment that you're in.
mhm.
And so many of us spend so much time in our heads,
Yeah.
whether we're in the past or leaning into the future,
Yeah.
and we miss what's going on in our present moment. You know, and so present-centered awareness is simply catching yourself with the I'm old enough to remember record players. So I always liken it to the record that is playing in the back of our minds, you
Mhm.
know, and it's giving us these messages about ourselves, about our lives, and about our world around us, our environment around us. And if we don't pause long enough to catch ourselves, those messages just keep getting reinforced.
Mhm.
And so for me in my work with so many people, it's about asking sometimes like just get the screech of the needle off the record and asking the question, what are you believing about yourself right now?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? And that is usually something that makes people go, huh, because it's usually based on some past narrative
Yep.
about something they've told themselves or somebody else told them based on some past experience that they've had that they've been carrying with them into their present focus,
Mhm.
present future, you know? And when we hold on to those past things, we then narrow our future focus and limit it because now we're like, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that
Yeah.
because all of these things from back here, right? Present centered awareness is accessed by just coming to the awareness that you're doing that in your mind,
Yeah.
taking a breath and being still. And sometimes it's asking that question in your mind, what am I believing about myself right now?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, I'll use myself as an example. When I bought this house, it was in 2020 and it's a new development. And I knew I wanted to buy a house because in 2020, I spent no money, couldn't go anywhere, and had saved for a down payment faster than I ever thought I'd be able to because we couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
But every house I found in my price range was a fixer upper. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm not spending that kind of money to then have to fix it up. I
Right.
don't have time for that.
Right.
So I come to this new development, I do the tour, I pick a floor plan, and the woman says to me, you have the option to get one of the houses that faces one of the ponds or lakes, and it's going to be, I think she said it was $10,000 more. And I was like, oh no, I don't need that. And so we went on, we did the paperwork, and then I went home. About 3 days later, something in the back of my mind started noodling.
Uh-huh.
And I caught myself. I was like, wait, why did I say I didn't need that? And
Uh-huh.
I realized I had this always had this habit of just trying to keep myself, contained,
Uh-huh.
small,
Yeah.
and not allowing myself to be bigger or dream bigger. I
Mhm.
called her back that Monday,
I'll
Monday
take
or
the
Tuesday,
view.
and said I changed my mind.
I'll take
I'll take the view, and I have loved this view ever since.
I
But
love
it was
that.
an old belief. It was an old belief.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
to save the money, you'll forego the view.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
The upgrade.
exactly.
It's very
Hmm.
interesting. And it's funny because in my head I thought, this present-centered awareness, I love the label. And I'm not very, very much one to label things, but I think that um when it comes to something like our past narratives or our patterns of thinking or even our patterns of behavior and the way that
Hmm.
it stifles our confidence or stifles our ability to say, I want the upgrade, I'll take the upgrade, those little things in us, because there isn't something to name them, to label them, to acknowledge them as, we just automatically think that's just how it is. That's like, why does
Yes,
it need to be any different? Like, what is so bad or wrong about, living this narrative that's, 10, 20, 30 years of my past self? What's so wrong with looking towards the future all the time? But if we're not feeling good, if we're not feeling happy, if we're not feeling fulfilled, then that's what's wrong with it. But sometimes
that's what's wrong with
it's what's wrong with
it.
it. But we also get caught up because we don't, I don't know if you've ever had this with your clients, but I have it quite a bit where people will come and they'll say, I just feel like, like it's a lot of noises and hand gestures, but they don't have the words to put on it. And then finally, I'm able to say,
Yes,
well, it sounds like you're living a lot, in this mind frame of who you were when you were 20 years old and just left home. And you haven't yet adjusted to the fact that you've been an adult on your own for the last 15 years, and you're unsettled because you never claimed that identity. And they're like, oh, so what do I do? And it's like, well, now you got to look at who you are now and what you want to do now. But it's interesting
yes,
because there's never been a label for it for me before. It's just like, it's now, you
yeah,
gotta focus on now, and that's not as beautifully eloquent as this present centered awareness. It's what it is. I've always just been like, we're going to look at now, and what happened before gets to stay there, and what you're hoping will happen in the future gets to stay there. But for now, we have this opportunity to look at what's really here. And what's really here right now for you is that you're unsettled and you're unfulfilled and you're questioning yourself in the past and in the future, instead of just
hmm,
being okay with what's happening here, or even acknowledging or honoring that you're feeling this way, because you can't put a name to it. You're just agitated. You're feeling agitated, right?
indeed, indeed. And it's funny because I love working with clients like in their mid 30s to their mid 60s because that's the
That,
that's the sweet spot where everybody starts waking up and asking questions,
yeah,
about their lives, whether it's relationships, where they live, their careers. It always starts with a feeling. Something is unsettled.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
Hmm.
I will say this for myself, but I know it's true for my clients too, is that we all desire that sense of stability and settlement, and I don't think it's ever like I want to find the one thing I'm supposed to be doing and the one person I want to be settled and it's just more like we want to feel at ease. We want to know that
Yes,
where we are in our present day, what we're doing right now is leading us to the goals we want to have, or even just the peace we want to achieve. I feel like
absolutely.
our world has done a really good job of stirring up so much, like the lack of peace, the absence of peace, for the arguing, the fighting, the combativeness, the I'm right, you're wrong, this is the way you do it, this is the way
Hmm.
you shouldn't do it. It's like from every different direction, it's always this tension and this resistance, rather than
Yeah.
what I believe we could more easily be doing, which is, finding, I believe it comes from finding perspective, and not just from our own perspectives, but being able to look at someone else's perspective and say, even if I don't agree with you, I can see how you think that, and allowing
Yes.
it to, instead of being this fight, it's like, oh, we just have different brains and doing different things.